If you watched our video on the M3A Scyk Fighter, you know how hard it was to sell military-grade vehicles during the time of the Empire. Major manufacturers, even the king of shipmaking, Hutt Drive Yards, had to allow Imperial advisors to sit on their board. The Mandalorian shipwright MandalMotors suffered a time of complete suspension before they just accepted the advisor and promptly paid them off. Interestingly though, while the M3A always remained a covert creation of MandalMotors, the Dunelizard was allowed to be openly sold. But I think we can assume that this too required a bit of credits and corruption. Nonetheless, it started production a few years after the end of the Clone Wars, and sold for 115,000 credits. A very reasonable price considering what it comes with, placing it around twice the cost of the cannon fodder TIE Fighter, and 35 grand less than the X-Wing. For that, you got a ship with a top speed of 950 km per hour, or 590 miles per hour, making it just a bit slower than the main starfighters used by the Republic and the Rebels. Its double medium laser cannons are pretty standard, and surprisingly, considering its badass appearance, it doesn't have any proton torpedoes or concussion missiles stock. These weapon mounts could be swapped out for ion cannons or the missiles and torpedoes, having 6 on board, but you had to pick between one of these. You couldn't have your laser cannons and your explosives. That modular component is something they kept from the M3A, the vehicle that paved the way for an era of popular Mando ships, which also included the Kamogila heavy fighter. Because many Dunelizard buyers operated on the wrong side of the law, quick maneuverability, a Class 2 hyperdrive, and heavy shield generators were the most loved aspects of this ship. It gained an infamous reputation in some areas of the galaxy, but most were smart enough not to engage many Imperials. And when you think of cartels that knew how to hold on to power even during Palpatine's reign, you think of the Hutts. And fittingly, this ship earned the nickname the Medium Hutt Fighter, as they made up a large amount of Hutt fleets employed to protect their holdings in the Outer Rim. But to be fair, the Dunelizard wasn't exclusively used by pirates and smugglers, as some mid-rim worlds also used these for planetary defense. One notable world was Naboo, whose RSF integrated them into their fleets along with the Z-95, Fire Sprays, and Kamogila. Naboo usually purchased the Mark II Dunelizard, which lost the passenger seat in favor of an astromech. This variant also sees a dramatic change in the hull, from everything to a change in the nose to an overall increase in the length. This is true of each of the so-called Mandalorian-made Hutt fighters, where they all have a similar overarching design, and then each have 2 variants and modular weaponry. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Mandalorians were up to during the time of the New Republic and canon, so maybe we can see those ships in some future Star Wars materials. So that's it for the Dunelizard, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. This ship was first introduced in the game Jump to Lightspeed, an expansion of Star Wars Galaxies, and the name Dunelizard comes from a reptile creature on Tatooine. Other details come from the complete Star Wars encyclopedia. So that's it for the Medium Hutt Fighter, the G1 M4C Dunelizard. If you want to connect with us, help support this channel, or get your own copies of the reference material used to make this video, be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon. But most important of all, remember, few things are cooler than a fighter jet in space, and the Force will be with you, always.